Hey, what's going on, folks? Alex here with Dark Monkey Balls, coming at you with another video, or I guess audio, whatever. Anywho, it is, of course, the breeding season, late breeding season. Most people are getting eggs, and some folks are even lucky enough to be hatching out ball pythons already. So what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and just break down ball python breeding for dummies in the simplest possible way. So shouldn't really be too short a video. Go over what I do, what I don't do, and what other folks do that I don't do. Very fascinating. Anywho, ball pythons are actually pretty easy to breed. There's nothing too complicated about it. There are finer points that come with experience, but for the most part, it's not that hard, especially for me. I live here in Southern California. So I get to skip a whole step, basically, which is cooling down the snakes. And that's usually the first thing people do, is they'll set aside a couple months, usually about September through October. They'll be cooling their snakes at night down to 75 degrees. And what this does, in theory, is get the male ball pythons into breeding mode and get the female ball pythons to start developing follicles. Right off the bat, what you want to have is females that are about 1,500 grams or more and males that are about 500 grams or more. And you want to just really keep track of those weights because they're going to be important. Females need the resources to develop eggs, and males need the resources to breed because it burns a lot of calories for males to breed ball pythons or what have you. If you do it too much and you overbreed your males, they can in fact die. And likewise with females, if they're too small, they can become what's called egg-bound, where they basically can't lay their eggs and they die. But then this also happens for reasons that people don't quite know. I had a friend of mine who had a female ball python that was well oversized, over 2,000 grams, and she was egg-bound and died. And unfortunately, I've never known any of these eggs to go to term. Usually people will try to cut them out of the snake when they die and incubate them, but they never live. So it kind of sucks, especially when it's over the size and you don't really know why it died or why it got stuck. So along with size, snakes also need to be a certain age. Usually for females, they need to be on their third winter, which is about 2.5 years, kind of depending on when they hatch out and all that good stuff. Males, about 6 to 8 months, and they'll breed. And some folks say for males, they don't want them over 1,500 grams because they kind of get lazy after a while. But I haven't found that to be the case with my snakes. But for years, it might be different. So anyways, like I said, cooling the snakes down to 75 degrees at night, back up to normal temperatures during the day for a few months, and that should get them into breeding mode. And then for the next few months, you're going to be cycling males through the females there. Most folks will leave them in for a day or two unless they see a physical locking of the snakes, and then they'll leave them in. I usually cycle my snakes for about 3 days in and 4 days off, and then offer food, and keep going through that, until basically the females are refusing the males. And when that happens, they're pretty likely that they're going to ovulate and they're going to lay eggs eventually. So I'll end up with anywhere from 6 to 12 locks during this time when I'm cycling males through. And that's about as simple as it gets. A lot of folks will either palpate their female snakes or checking for follicle sizes, or they'll ultrasound them. And it's kind of an expensive tool to use, the ultrasound machine. I think the cheapest I've seen is about $5,000. And they get more and more expensive from there. But it's a good investment if you want to be serious about ball python breeding or python breeding in general. Even boas, you can ultrasound your boas to see where they're at. And the reason people do this is because they want to keep track of follicle size, because at certain sizes are when you really want to focus the males into the breeding. You can probably Google search what they're at. I think it's 25 millimeters right before ovulation for female snakes. So they want to really make sure that the males get in there and breed and lock up. Some folks will say if you have about 5 locks or so, you're pretty secure. I mean, if the female's not going to go at 5 locks, she's not going to go at all. But keeping track of sizes and things like that, it's pretty key. And then one thing you'll notice too with your females is right before they ovulate, they're going to lighten up in color. They call that the glow before you go. And they'll ovulate. It'll look like they're almost gravid. I guess they would be technically gravid. I'm using my term meaning that they're actually full of eggs here and not just ovulating. But they'll look like they're about to lay eggs, and this is what I've seen a lot with my snakes, is they'll look like they're going to lay, and then all of a sudden they deflate, and that's the ovulation. Sometimes you won't catch that. It could be, a day or two. If you don't check on them every day, you'll probably miss an ovulation. But after that, they'll go into a shed, and then about 35 to 40 days after shed, kind of depending on temps, they'll lay eggs. And what I've come to see with mine is things around 2,000 grams tend to lay 7 to 8 eggs, so the bigger the better. The most eggs I've had in a clutch is 11, and that girl was 3,000 grams, but that's not always the case. But it certainly helps that the females are bigger. They'll be healthier, the eggs will be healthier, and it's just better overall. You can breed a female snake at 1,200 grams, but you're going to get a small clutch size and small egg sizes, and then it's going to take that much longer for the female to regain resources afterwards. Which brings up to a next point. Some folks like to let the females incubate their own eggs. I am personally against that. Basically, for me, the quicker I can get the female back on food, the better for her to get resources back, get calcium up. Because if you let her incubate the eggs, that's 60 days at least that she's not eating and is just kind of chilling. So you're also going to have a higher success rate with egg incubation or hatching, which isn't rocket science either. All you got to do is get a substrate, vermiculite, perlite, hatcherite, any of those things. Get proper moisture in there and incubate at about 89 to 91 degrees for 55 to 60 days, and you should have baby snakes hatching out. So in about 7 minutes, that is ball python breeding for dummies. It's really that simple, actually. They're not that hard to breed. It's important you take notes, you keep track of feeding schedules, shed cycles, ovulations, locks, things like that, so you can backtrack and see in your notes what was breeding, what isn't. Especially when you get eggs, because you really, really want to keep track of those days. So, it's not too difficult. Certain skills, like I don't palpate my snakes, I don't ultrasound them. I go until they stop locking up with the males, and usually by then they're close to ovulation and they lay eggs. It's worked out for me pretty well the last few years, and probably work out for you guys as well. Well, thank you. New video along with this one. Going to do another one here soon. Hope you enjoyed. Comment down below, all that good stuff, and enjoy. Good luck.